MyFantasySportsTalk.com.
Last week on My Fantasy Podcast.
The purse rack, man. You got some cool purses over there. I like it. You got a pink one.
There's the pink. There's a yellow one behind it. I go out fashionably when I go out.
You are not in last place, and let's keep that streak going. So every single week we can talk about how Orlando is not in last place. I think you're going to have to get a second win in a row to achieve that. We'll see.
That'll be tough. That'll be tough this week. That will. It'll be a little difficult.
Who's he got?
Me.
Ooh, a showdown.
Although I did look at your team, Orlando, and it for some reason it looks a lot better now than it did when you first drafted it. So
next one, this is for you, Orlando. We going back to you now. It's from CJ Carlos. Hey, Orlando, I wanted to give you an MFST a shot this week, so I took your advice with your man up, step aside piece, and I have to say, F you. I started Jeremy Hill and Marquise Godwin in daily fantasy, and I literally came in third last out of 7,000 entries. I would like an apology. Okay, that's off my chest. Now, give me your best daily fantasy play this weekend that won't be absolutely effing stupid. God bless. CJ Carlos. How many mixed emotions there?
I love the ending. God bless. There you go. At least God bless you, man.
What's up, everybody? My fantasy podcast peeps. Thanks for dropping in on us again. Sorry we missed last week. Things happen. We're like a special attraction now. You can catch us when you can, So we do apologize for that. But we got questions. We reserved the questions from last week. We'll address them and talk to you about them. So I'm going to be a different show. As you notice, I'm in a new studio in the new home. So a new breed studio, a new breed studio for you. So in case you're wondering where I'm at, I'm not in a crazy motel or anything like that. This is the new studio for me anyway for now. So I change other things in the house and then maybe I might move on, but thanks for joining us. My Fantasy Podcast. A lot of NFL, a lot of fantasy football going down today. That's what we'll talk about. Just a two-man show today. Myself, Brandon Reed, and my co-host Dan Schalk. What up, man?
What's going on? I love the new studio, new breed studio. It rolls right off the tongue.
It sounds like something you should be able to sell, so we'll see what happens. You got my email address and Twitter. Holler at me if you want to throw money my way. I'll sponsor anything. But hey, and that reminds me, Dan, we didn't really talk about this, I think, since the last podcast. We got to deal with Heineken going on.
Yeah. Throughout the course of the season, we'll be live tweeting on not only my sports handle or Twitter handle at FF Sports Talk, but also the site's Twitter handle at My Fantasy Sports Talk. A little jumbled in there, but you'll figure it out once you type it in. And going live on Facebook. We've dealt with some technical difficulties of Facebook Live to start the year, but the plan is that we're gonna start having weekly segments on there, answering the fans' fantasy football questions leading up to submitting their lineups, which we do here on the podcast. But going live on Facebook, I think it'll bring you answers immediately instead of having to wait for our show to come out. So definitely helping out more fans than we already do.
And you definitely want his opinion and take on things. That is our own Dan Shaw, because he is a future Hall of Famer of the Fantasy Sports Writer Association. I'll tell you that right now. So just me and that real talented, knowledgeable guy there. Orlando Torres had a scheduling conflict, will not be here. So did Ryan Thomas. We tried to get him on here. He was asking, when can I get back on the podcast? I'm like, anytime you want to. I'm like, oh, well, I can't. Wednesday. I'm like, well, that's when the podcast is. So I'm sorry. We'll try to get him on here somewhere, or Malachi, or some one of these other guys. It's tough to get everybody together on a weeknight. But a lot of
all you really need is me and you, though, Brandon. Let's be honest. You know that.
I don't know that you even need me right now. I don't. Really
we'll get to that. But hey, we're battling it out for third place in our fantasy baseball playoffs right now. So
I'll let you in on a secret, no or not, because I haven't touched it since 2 weeks ago.
Well, I'm battling a fake you, and I'm winning. So
as you probably noticed, I think I had Chris Sale on the bench the other day. So
that's okay. I think you got you negative points.
Well, good, because I'm not paying attention. So, you deserve third place. That's my take on that. You deserve the third place. You were the best team all year long. So, you can have the third place. I'm not interested in the third place. So, man, I'm done with it. Too much going on, which I also realize, we got to start scheduling our NBA fantasy draft real soon too, because it's coming up. The season starts incredibly early this year.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm going to want to defend my crown. So that's a given. I actually got the email from ESPN, who we played through the other day, to reactivate our league. So whether we're going to do that, we'll add some more fans in, kind of like we did the football league. A 14-team league in NFL fantasy football is difficult. That Brandon is finding that out as we're going through the year. Not myself. Don't worry about that, guys. But yeah, I think maybe we'll do that with the basketball. Is reach out to the fans again and have them come aboard and battle us out to see if they can take either of us down.
I'm going after that. My full focus is the NBA crown. I'm pretty hurt by that. And here's the thing about championship games, and what also got me in baseball this year too. And my whole downfall kind of started with losing in the semifinals in the baseball championship. Is that the later you get in the season, once your key playoffs and late season matchups are, these guys start resting. It's almost like it doesn't even matter the sport. I had a ton of guys on my fantasy baseball team start resting. And I'm like, what are you doing? That kills me. So, man, I don't know. It's tough, especially in football too. If you're counting on some guys in like a week 16, week 17, you don't know who the hell is really going to play. So makes it tough. My whole slide started with the baseball, Dan, and last couple of weeks in fantasy football have not been good for me. Last week, my picks sucked. So I don't really have a lot to talk about in today's show, to be honest. I'm just here.
Yeah, well, I can give my winning picks, although I don't even think I did much better than you, Brandon. I maybe caught up a game. But yeah, last week in the NFL was crazy, just the upsets. And of course, the first 2 weeks I was able to withhold myself and put some restraint on my gambling abilities. And so week 3, I didn't do it for the first 2 weeks, just stuck to daily fantasy and my season-long fantasy. But week 3, I went out.
You did so well, too. You did so well the first 2 weeks.
Oh, I was crushing it in daily fantasy. Fantastic. And that's why it gave me the confidence to let's lay some money on the line on some teams. And, of course, I played the money line on the Patriots. I got that. But then I also parlayed that with the Steelers, and I parlayed that with the Dolphins. So it was a disastrous Sunday on my end putting those bets down. But I live to see another weekend. How about that?
Yeah, I may not. I may only have a couple left. But I started like this last year, Dan, just up and down, and embarrassingly enough, I'll go ahead and admit it to the folks at home. I scored 51 points this week. I mean, I had no business even being out there, but surely that can't be an every week thing. I kind of started like that last year, though, Dan. Very low scores to start the season.
Yeah, I think you might have had a 40-pointer last year, but you came back and won the crown, so that's all that matters at the end.
Yeah, but you can see sometimes, you can see down the road. You know a guy may not be hot right now, but things got to go in motion. And it kind of happened with Odell Beckham Jr. last year, and Eli, struggling slow out of the gate, and kind of happening with ODB right now to start this year too. So, but we'll get into all that. We got questions from last week, questions from this week. So let's get into it. My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. I am Brandon Reed. That is Dan Shaw. Just us two holding it down for you. So before we really dive into some of the questions from last week, Dan, do you want to talk about the hottest news going on right now in just the world period? I mean, what the question of the world is, what is going on in our society right now, man? What is going on in our society when so much emphasis is placed on the NFL now and what people are doing during the national anthem, that the president is tweeting about it, and really the country's being divided even further? What is going on? Just your total take of the whole situation.
I mean, ultimately, it's disheartening. I haven't really commented on it out in the public at all. You know, I'm pretty active on Twitter and Facebook, but this is just something I didn't feel the need to really, talk about. It's something that you don't really know how to grasp it. Obviously, there's people who like our president, and a lot of them are not NFL players. I am one of, not an NFL player, but I don't really respect our president too much. So for him to come out and say some of that stuff really hit home with me. And I don't know how to look at it and actually visualize what is actually happening in front of me, because first of all, the biggest thing that I have, is it really doing anything? All the protests and unity, is it for, the civil rights movement, or is it for just hating our president? So I don't fully understand it to be able to grasp what's going on, but I don't. My first impression when looking at it Sunday, everybody's talking about it, but what is it actually accomplishing? What is it doing? And I actually don't have an answer to that. I don't know what each individual player, I think they have their own thought of what they want to accomplish by doing this. And they talk about unity, but I don't know if it's a unified effort to fix one certain thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned, what is it doing? Well, I'll also ask that of both sides. Why is it really offending people so much? Say you go to a game, okay? And look, I'm speaking for the other side here, okay? I'll tell you, yes, I'm going to stand at the national anthem. Me personally, yes, but when I go to a ball game or something like that in a formal environment where the national anthem is being played, I show respect, but I'm not looking over here, looking over there, looking to see what the next man is doing. I do not care what anyone else does. Nothing anyone in that arena could do that night would piss me off enough to stay away or boycott or leave the game at all. I do not care. That's one of the biggest things that I think that is affecting our society today, is not enough people mind their own damn business. Why do you care? One life is hard enough to lead. Okay. I don't want to lead two or more. So I don't get it. That's the point of it. I don't get it, Dan. I just, if you want to ask that question, what is it really doing? Exactly. I can ask that question of both sides, and I'm with you. At this point, I think it's just being carried on because our president is not helping matters at all. So you're going to see the fire brew, and that's all it is really right now. It could have ended already, but the president is fanning the flames.
Yeah. And, ultimately, that's what you want to look at, is what it might accomplish. But honestly, I don't think anybody really knows. And I wonder what this Sunday is going to bring, whether it's going to bring more protests. I mean, I think everybody by now saw the Steelers protest and Villanueva coming out, being the only one standing out. And he actually apologized for that due to his team being, upset, and he felt bad that he drew attention to himself and not the team. But like, when he came out and apologized for standing for the national anthem, like, I don't have a side in this, but that seemed a little it leaves me speechless at times, because I don't know what to think about it. I just want to watch football, and that's that's really what it is I just want to watch a game. It's a game. I know these players get paid millions of dollars, and you're getting the politics in sports. Ultimately, that's all I care about, is when the clock starts in the first quarter and ends in the fourth, what happens in between.
And I'm right there with you there. I don't really have, a fight on either side, as far as the protests go. I understand both sides, but what I do not want is a president making a demand of telling people to stand. Okay. That's what I do not want. Okay. This is not 1930s Germany. That's the kind of demands I do not want made. Is that really America? Sure, the NFL could pass a law or a rule saying everyone must stand for the national anthem, but is that really America? Is that liberty? Is that freedom? No, we're going backwards. And if that's the case, I know it pisses a lot of people off, and I understand the disrespect. I truly do. It's our national anthem, it's our flag, but it means different things to different people. Okay, step outside of your shoes, outside of your little world for a minute. So I understand both sides, and I don't understand why. Honestly, when I'm watching the game, I don't even do they even on televised games, let's say, okay, I understand maybe not going or protesting that matter, but you watch a lot of football, Dan. I don't even remember even seeing the national anthem part unless it's like a big playoff game, the World Series or the Super Bowl or something. Am I missing that? Do they show that every single game on every broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, definitely growing up, they didn't. I think probably over the last few years, they started to because of all the media attention it's brought.
Yeah, outside that though, I understand that.
No, definitely not. Like growing up, I that's all I did on Sundays. It was watch football, and I never saw that. Like maybe the anthem was going on when the commentators first started talking about the game.
They're most likely in a commercial break.
Yep, exactly.
Most broadcasts are in a commercial break when the national anthem is being played because they don't want to sit there really. And like I said, unless it's like a big event, but they don't just want to sit there with dead air, for that right. much when they got a lot of advertising dollars to pay and sponsors to show. It's just the nature of it. So. But yeah, I just thought we'd touch on it. I think we're pretty much on the same side. Like I said, the ultimate thing to me is I understand the disrespect, but if you start demanding that everyone stand, we're going backwards, folks. We're going backwards. So let's move on. We'll talk about real football now. But that was a football topic, right? I mean, you can't even avoid that if you're a football fan right now. And I know everyone, if we haven't lost them by now, Dan, they're still fans and probably not offended by what we're saying.
Right. I mean, I couldn't get away from the topic this week, just trying to watch it, whether it be on ESPN or just listening to AM radio, sports talk radio in the car. I mean, it was nonstop. And honestly, I was like, enough already. Let's just move forward. Let's get past this and play the game and talk fantasy football, because that's ultimately what is more enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think it just boils down to either you like football or you don't. If you're really a true football fan, you don't really care about any of this when it comes to football. Saturday, Sunday, Friday nights, Thursday night, junior high, whatever. If you like football, you're going to participate and watch football. So I don't know. We'll talk about it. But last week I got called out, Dan. So I want to talk about that real quick. Mr. Dale Thomas. So when will you guys be replacing Brandon on the show? And after we didn't have a show last week, you was probably wondering that, like, oh, damn, man, they listened to Dale. I bet Dale was scared. I'm like, damn, did I really get him fired off the show? Anyway, that Andy Dalton pick is such a fireable offense. I like how the Bengals have no offense with Dandy. Kind of like how the Bengals have no offense with Andy Dalton. And that was at a point where they hadn't even scored a touchdown yet after 2 games. So, question, since I own Dalton and Russell Wilson, who is also garbage, would you drop either for Simeon or Alex Smith? I get, Dan, you may have answered this question differently last week than you might right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Andy Dalton had a bounce back game, I think, against the Packers. I did like the Bengals to stay close in that game, and ultimately, they lost in overtime. But anytime you fire an offensive coordinator like the Bengals did, it kind of rejuvenates the offense and rejuvenates the team. I believe the quarterback coach, Bill Lazor, was promoted to OC, and he's ultimately a different type of play caller, and you saw that in week 3 against the Packers. So, while I don't think Andy Dalton's going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, I would rather have him over Simeon or Alex Smith and over Russell Wilson, honestly. If anybody followed the site in the preseason, Russell Wilson was my number 1 quarterback bust, and he got some points in garbage time against Tennessee last week, but he's been terrible to start the year. A lot of it on his offensive line, but it doesn't matter when you're playing fantasy. You need a solid offensive line to produce points consistently. So Andy Dalton, I would say, is the best of those 4 in fantasy football for the rest of the season.
Well, I'm happy to hear you say that. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I was kind of talking about Russell Wilson because he had more than just a few points, and I mean he had quite a few points last week. One of those elite for the year type quarterback games is way up there. But anyway, you think he's garbage too? Dale Thomas thinks he's garbage.
Well, I mean, his first 2 weeks were, and if you look at 3.5 quarters on Sunday, yeah, I mean, fantasy football, you don't care about that. Garbage time points are vital in some leagues. So, you can't look past what he was able to do. But Tennessee's defense, I think they also started playing some cover fours and prevent towards the end when they had a couple touchdown leads. So, I wouldn't think that would be a consistent performance from Russell Wilson every week.
Yeah, we'll see. Offensive line's still been a mess. That's what you got to overcome. So, but anyway, Dale Thomas, it ain't got much better. I'm still on the show for now, but I'm facing suspension or leave with pay anytime now, based on this fantasy performance, anytime now. So, but anyway, thanks for the question. And I'm sorry. I guess I convinced so many folks to take Andy Dalton in the drafts, Dan.
Probably like I did with Eli Manning last year. So, you felt that pain last year. Now you know what it's like to give out that info and get the hate afterwards.
But I'm honestly shocked with the Bengals, right, Dan? They got to win last week, but I'm honestly shocked because I thought they would be I thought they'd be one of the top offenses in the league. It just hadn't clicked yet. And the defense is tough, but man, I
don't think they figured out their personnel. They drafted Joe Mixon, but they didn't want to give him the ball as much the first 2 weeks. Now week 3, you started to. I think you're going to see him become more of a focal point of that offense, and that'll take some of the weight off of Andy Dalton's shoulders, and he'll find AJ Green consistently like he usually does.
Yeah, we'll see. We can wait and see and hope because I had Marvin Lewis as the coach of the year.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No chance. Are you telling me there's no chance?
No chance.
Okay, so let's see what else we got going on here. Waiver wire pickup from last week, Chris Carson or Duke Johnson. Man, if you could still get Chris Carson as of last week, a week ago, you were doing pretty good, I think. Here's another one. Would you trade Le'Veon Bell for Kareem Hunt and Jeremy Maclin? That's a good one. It's probably already been decided, Josh. Josh Windsor for the question. Appreciate it. But would you have done that? I know you would have done that, Dan. Le'Veon Bell, so that's all you're giving up, and you get Kareem Hunt and Jeremy Maclin?
Yeah, the way I look at this trade is more Le'Veon Bell for Kareem Hunt. Jeremy Maclin, to me, is kind of a side piece that's going to probably stay on your bench more often than not, depending on your receiver situation.
Yeah, semi-often flex play. I get it. But still, it's
as a Hunt owner in every single league I'm in this year, it's kind of hard to say I won't take what he's producing on a weekly basis. And Brandon was it was either Brandon or Orlando. Somebody said after that week 1, don't expect that week in, week out, and it's basically 3 straight weeks of it.
That was me.
It slipped my mind there. So honestly, yeah, I probably would do that. I'm not, Bell's holdout, I think, is affecting him. The Steelers' offense in general is just weird. Anytime they go on the road, Big Ben wants to suck, and that's honestly kind of what he's done. And was this a half-point PPR league or?
Yeah.
I don't know if it says that. But,
the former question was, yeah.
Yeah, so either way, I think I want Kareem Hunt this year. It might be blasphemous if you look at Le'Veon Bell's past, but he hasn't shown it this year. He's going to have some good games, but I just like Hunt. I just think in that offense, he's going to be getting the ball consistently. And even Le'Veon Bell, his rushes have been pretty low to start the year.
Man, I can't even argue at this point. I guess I'd have to go Kareem Hunt too. It's just all falling in place. You nailed that one, Dan. By a landslide. So here we go. Here's some more props to you, Dan. I mean, you've just been crushing it as of late, which you are 3-0, by the way, too. Dan, got to give you props. I thought Eric Decker was the wide receiver to own in Tennessee, but after reading your dislike of him, I was able to trade him before week 2 for Hunter Henry. Think that's a good move. I also got Jimmy Graham as my other tight end. So who is your de facto starter each week without even looking at matchups? Henry Caldwell, giving you some props, Dan. It's a multi-layered question there, but I was with you for Decker there. I got on to some Tennessee Titans fans and some message boards too, and some of them were thinking he was their number one wide receiver. I mean, are you guys crazy? Where does that come from? It's not even gonna be close. But I mean, you had him way down there even further than that.
Yeah, I mean, I have him not even rosterable in most 12-man or deeper leagues, or I'm sorry, in 12-man and under leagues. I wouldn't even own Eric Decker. Obviously, that Corey Davis injury, that hamstring, yeah, that's something I'm kind of upset I was slightly right about because it has lingered. I drafted him in one of my main money leagues, hoping that I can sing some praise Brandon's way. He looked good week 1.
Well, and that's also helped Eric Decker too. Eric Decker would have already been probably 5th on the depth chart if it wasn't for that injury, because Taywan Taylor is doing well. So.
Yeah. So Eric Decker, I wouldn't, I would stay away from him as I said all year. Now with the trade that you did, you got Hunter Henry. He gave another offer last week, not catching a single pass. So 2 out of 3 weeks he got 0 points. I liked Hunter Henry. I have him in our work league, and I've played him those 2 weeks that he's gotten 0. But I still like his chances moving forward. Now Jimmy Graham got involved in the Seattle passing game a little bit last week. I think he had 7 catches for 70 some odd yards. So I think it's ultimately, I don't know if you're going to have a de facto starter every week. You're going to have to look at matchups and kind of play it based off of that. But if history says anything, play Hunter Henry this week because coming off an 0 for game, he follows it up with at least 6 or 7 catches in his short career.
And he's still the most talented receiver or tight end at this point for the Chargers. Yeah. I mean, Antonio Gates is great, but Hall of Famer. Is he a Hall of Famer, Dan? I mean,
Oh yeah. I think he has to be. He has the record for most. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I'm not diminishing him, but he's been in the league at least 15, 16 years now. I mean, it's been a long time.
Yep, definitely a long time.
So, I mean, he's just aging. So Hunter Henry is the stud on that team. Make no mistakes about it. It's just the chemistry is between those two with Gates and Rivers is going. It's there. It's glue. It's on. So just got to let that play out. But I like the move. So let's see. I knew we had a question talking about AJ Green here. So let's hit on this one right quick. This is from last week. So it's from Neil Gallagher. I've been offered AJ Green for Kareem Hunt. He has Hunt. My other running backs are Gurley and Lynch. Should I accept this deal and give away Hunt? So AJ Green for Kareem Hunt while he's got Gurley and Lynch. What do you think, Dan?
No. I think if you are an owner of Kareem Hunt, he is untouchable. I wouldn't trade him for basically any package of players. I wouldn't touch him at all. So I like AJ Green, but I just don't. I don't think it's worth it. I'm not Sean Lynch. I think he's going to be pretty bad. So saw what he did last week. I think he had under 10 yards on 9 or 10 carries. So I'd stay away and keep Hunt and reap the rewards that way.
Yeah, I agree. You don't get rid of Hunt, not when that Bengals are playing like they're playing. I mean, you're talking to Mr. Bengal here. Like I said before, I just had Marvin Lewis as the coach of the year. I had them 1 game away from the Super Bowl in my predictions. So it ain't happening. But something's just wrong with that team, man. And Green's going to consistently get his. But I just don't have any faith in this offense in general for him to be fed like the elite player that he typically has been in years past. So I don't see that, man. I'd hang on to your running back, man. I'd be starting all 3 of them guys probably every week, Dan. Honestly, I'm starting. If those are my 3 running backs, I'm starting Hunt, Gurley, and Lynch probably every single week. Hello? Are you with me, Dan? And also, that I noticed that was a question for this week too. So, yeah, that one made it on both lists. So we answered 2 questions there. But May have some technical difficulties with Dan here. We'll try to get him back on here. But so from the question from Neil Gallagher is it brought up last week, but I knew it was still relevant. It felt like it was relevant, so we kept it on here and we'll answer it. So that was our another one of our questions for this week. So we got one less of those to do, but Kareem Hunt, man, is just killing it. Let me talk about one more here. So because this is the guy I got on my team here. Let's see what this says. This is from last week from Wayne Laporta. I thought Ted Ginn was going to be a good pickup this year. Dude is absolutely garbage. Man, why? We're calling so many players garbage. I mean, absolute garbage. Russell Wilson is garbage. Ted Ginn is garbage. Seriously, guys, come on now. Should I drop him for Willie Snead, Allen Hurns, or Cole Beasley? Wayne Laporta. I got Ted Ginn, and I'm not giving up on him because you know what the Saints do, man. You know what the Saints do. They pass the ball, and he just hadn't got his yet. It goes around. You know, it's a merry-go-round as far as Drew Brees and his passing game. So he just hadn't had his big games, but I'm probably not going with Willie Snead. Allen Hurns, possibly if Blake Bortles can keep having decent games because he's his number one guy now. And then Cole Beasley depends on if it's a PPR league. If it's a PPR league, then I like Cole Beasley a lot in PPR leagues because Dak seems to be comfortable with him, and I like Cole Beasley there. So that's going to wrap up some of the questions from last week. Sorry we couldn't get to all of those last week. Sorry we couldn't get the podcast going last week for you guys. Just a scheduling conflict. So that's it. Let's do new questions and get Dan Shaw, give Dan time to get back in here. But this is a good one. And I hope this is still relevant for you. Jeff Hinlin. Okay. So he's got a buddy wants to do a trade. His question is, hey guys, my buddy wants to trade away Amari Cooper and he wants either Lamar Miller or Derrick Henry from me. Is this a trade I should be interested in? So Amari Cooper is typically one of those elite receivers that you would want to have since last year, I believe, so it really is going to depend on who your other receivers are. That's the biggest question. I know if Dan was here and we'll get Dan back on, but if he was here, he would say, trade away Lamar Miller because Lamar Miller is garbage. Man, I like Miller. Miller has been consistent. He knows what he's been doing. And he's been doing it a little bit under the radar this year. But Amari just potentially can do more. That's the bottom line. Amari can potentially do more. And then Derrick Henry, who knows, after what DeMarco Murray did last week against Seattle, they want to get DeMarco more involved and really solidify that he is the starter, than running back number one. You don't really know what to do with Derrick Henry. So I don't know. I would definitely consider the trade depending on who your receivers are, who your other options are at receiver. So Dan is having some technical difficulties, so just bear with us. I'll back up for you guys, and maybe he can jump back in here. So let's just take a little quick break here before we get into more of these fantasy mailbag questions from you guys. Back on My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Brandon Reed and Dan Shaw is back after a couple minute delay there. Bad news for you though, Dan. I answered all the questions. It's time to go home.
Well, I think the listeners might want to hear from a 3-0 team talk about it. So I'm coming back anyways. This was a whole diversion just so you had to deal with answering those questions in the heat from the audience.
Yeah, I think you interrupted my flow there is what happened. Because I took care of the audience. Their questions were answered. Although this could be sabotaged this week if and we may lose all the fans if I'm the only advice that they can hear to answer their question and I'm struggling here the way I am, then why even come? Why even bother? But okay, so we'll back up. And I realized, Dan, I was answering a question on here when we were talking about the AJ Green deal for Neil Gallagher. It was on this week's set of questions too, so that made me pause for a second, kind of threw me off. So we basically have already answered the one question.
I tried to trick you a little bit. I thought that was a very pressing and solid question by our.
It was still good this week, honestly.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So they'll get double the answers, and it'll keep Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. It basically boils down to that, I think. So let's start new. I'll let Dan go. This is from Jeff Hinlin. I went ahead and answered this question, but you know what the question is, Dan. You go.
No, I don't know what the question is.
Oh, okay. All right, wham bam. Hey guys, my buddy wants to trade away Amari Cooper, and he wants either Lamar Miller or Derrick Henry from me. Is this a trade I should be interested in? Jeff Hinlin. And what I said, Dan, was that I know what Dan is going to say. So it was perfect. It was perfect that you disappeared from the podcast because I already knew what you're going to say. And Dan was going to say, get rid of Lamar Miller any day, every day, all day.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, was he asking to trade Amari Cooper for one of those two?
Yeah. He wants to get rid of Amari for whatever reason, and he'll take Lamar Miller or Derrick Henry for him.
Yeah, don't do that. Lamar Miller's terrible. Dante Foreman is going to end up being that main ball carrier by week 17. He's just getting more touches every week, and honestly, just better. So I would definitely. Amari Cooper has been rough the first 3 weeks, but when you have Derek Carr at quarterback, he's going to have some games. He's going to find you. I think
Crabtree got hurt last game too. I don't know how severe it is. I didn't see, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's too severe, but it does. Even with Crabtree there, I mean, Amari Cooper will eventually start to turn it around. He's too talented not to. So, Lamar Miller definitely not. Derrick Henry, no. I mean, he's still the number 2 back in Tennessee. You don't want to trade away a number 1 wide receiver for a number 2 back.
But here's the thing, Dan. Jeff is in the situation of receiving Amari Cooper. So all he has,
then definitely trade both of them. That doesn't matter. Okay.
Either or. Yeah. Okay.
Receiving Amari, then yes, go for it because you're getting an owner who's buying into this hype the first 2 weeks.
That's the thing. His buddy, whoever his buddy is the one that desperately wants to get rid of Amari Cooper. For whatever reason, he'll take Lamar Miller or Derrick Henry for him.
Do it. Do it now.
Yeah. Okay. So, yep. So let's move on. The next question was Jason Muse. Now, this is an interesting one. This is an interesting situation. Who is the back to own in the Philly now that Sproles is injured, Blunt or Smallwood? So that's the question. Dan, what do you think?
I like Smallwood. I just think his overall upside is going to be much better. He's going to get you more yards per carry. He might lose to LeGarrette Blunt in the goal line carries in scoring, by the goal line. So that might affect it if it's a standard or PPR league. PPR league, I would definitely lean Smallwood. Standard, LeGarrette has some value, but I think Smallwood has the upside. He's the younger, fresher back, and he's the one who's going to get the most touches moving forward.
Yeah, I agree, and I really don't think that you could have. I mean, you probably a lot of people got and I looked at our league, and I was trying to get Smallwood too off the waiver wire this morning, but it didn't happen. So he was the guy you could have got most likely off the waiver wire. I'm not sure LeGarrette Blunt could. He's probably picked up in a lot of leagues. But here's another guy, Dan. What do you think about this? I'm saying if you weren't able to pick up on Smallwood, there's a chance that Corey Clement could be a flyer. He got 6 touches, I think, last week and turned them into a touchdown. So he's a rookie that they want to keep an eye on. Yeah,
Corey Clement, a guy I scouted pretty hard leading up to the NFL draft. He was undrafted out of Wisconsin, but he put up a ton of numbers while at Wisconsin. A lot of off-the-field incidences, hurt his draft stock leading up to the draft. But he's got all types of talent. I had him as a 3rd-round talent that would get drafted much later because of those off-the-field concerns. But when he's on the field and he's playing, he's a solid back. So definitely is worth a stash because you never know when an injury to Smallwood, who's a smaller type back, could get hurt. And then basically Corey Clement's your featured role, sharing it with LeGarrette. So I like that move.
Do you remember this, Dan? Do you remember who you had him his comparison to his pro comparison was? Do you remember that?
I don't. But
That was so long ago, but you definitely did scout him out of Wisconsin.
yeah, I'm gonna find that out because I'm pretty solid player. I remember getting some mail on him once I published that profile saying there's no way that he's going to compare to that. So I'm going to look that up in the meantime while we continue, and I'll readdress that.
Well, the thing right now is that there's a lot to play out in the Philly backfield. I don't think anyone really knows for certain right now. So I think it's looking like Smallwood. I'm saying watch out, though. I'm saying watch out for Corey Clement. We'll let Dan get that information because I'm very curious on that. We'll see. Because that's a guy you can take a flyer on. He probably was not picked up overnight in our league. I seriously doubt it. He's probably available in most leagues. No.
All right.
So
actually,
Smallwood was, but
so I do have his NFL comp, and it's not really that good. Dominic Rhodes, the former Super Bowl champ with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, which we know. We know.
He had a couple solid years, but
yes.
nothing if you want a sustained NFL career.
Yeah, you know as well as I do that the running game was never a focal point as long as Peyton Manning was the quarterback. So, but yeah, well, that's an interesting comparison, Dan. Where the hell did you pull that one from? Dominic Rhodes. Wow.
Well, just I like with my comps. I like to watch old school tape. So I look at size, and then I pull up old school NFL games, honestly, and just look and see who around the same size plays similar to that player. So they must have looked a lot alike. And in the draft projection, I put the round 3 talent, but character issues will see him fall. So he's definitely got the talent to be a stud, not only for the Eagles but in fantasy.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that Philly backfield. Like I said, I think too much is yet to be determined. We'll find out. Let's move on. Next one comes from Nick Smith. Dak looks whack even after his 3-touchdown performance last night. Should I be worried? He's my only quarterback in a 16-man league, and the waiver wire is thin. Would you recommend I look for a trade for another option? I have depth at all positions. Nick Smith. So, do you think Dak looks whack?
No, I mean I don't think he looks whack. I mean, actually, Dak has grown on me even in his loss. He's had some rough passes, but ultimately, I just like the way he's kind of leading the offense. And teams are now stacking the box. There's this blueprint out there that you're going to make Dak beat you. Well, he's been able to do that 2 times this year. So
man, he threw that one bomb. Was it to Bryce Butler? Was it named Butler?
Yeah, Bryce Butler
in the end zone. Woo! Now that was a bomb right there.
And he's got some deep accuracy on the run, which is pretty impressive. I didn't see that on tape coming out of college. But no, in a 16-man league now, I would highly recommend you get a backup quarterback because he is going to have a bye week.
But who's that going to be though, Dan? Because a lot of these guys probably have 2, maybe 3 quarterbacks on their roster. Some of them.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing is if he's saying he's deep in all positions, we'll trade for a backup quarterback, play matchups if you need to. But yeah, I mean, get a decent one. You don't have to get get lights out. But if you can get an Alex Smith to fill in for a week, what I always like to do, if you're confident in your starting quarterback, which I would be confident in Dak, look at what week he has a bye week, look at the best matchup on that week and target that quarterback who's playing a weak defense. So, for that week is going to be pretty solid. So,
but you would give up some of your depth for that when you're sold on Dak Prescott?
I'll let you in on this, Brandon, just because we're close. We're co-hosts, even though we're in the same league. I don't have a backup quarterback in our league. I have loads of talent on my bench. I was thinking about letting go of a Joe Mixon or a Kenny Galladay for just a backup quarterback that I
like Deshaun Watson. You want Deshaun Watson?
No, not really. But that's something that's floating into my head. Okay. Deal.
Okay.
They all heard it.
You want Andy Dalton
after the show?
I know somebody that's got Andy Dalton.
Yeah, I was looking at that for an option.
It's our boy Orlando Torres. Orlando is watching. He just said he's watching. So, he's got Andy Dalton for you. They're going to turn it around, right?
Yeah, so I don't mind that strategy too much, but you have to have depth, and like my team, and I'm trusting your assessment in your own team here with his depth. So, look at a decent quarterback to trade, but I mean, I wouldn't be too worried with Dak. You're still going to play him most of the time, week in, week out, I would say.
Oh, what was that? What was that? Cattail? Okay. Woo.
Yeah, well, that's Des Bryant tries to chime in on Dak. Give me the ball.
Yeah, he was turning his ass out to him right there. I know that's for sure. So, man, I don't know. My advice to you is keep rolling with Dak. I just don't think he's going to be that bad, which is a 180 from what I was saying season, in the draft. So, I mean, I think he's versatile enough, and he's coming along as a quarterback. And that one scrambling pass as he was scrambling out to the right and threw that bomb, as Dan said, on the move to Bryce Butler. I was like, man, that's a pro throw right there. I like it. So it kind of flipped on me right there. But anyway, I've had Matt Ryan, who had a subpar game this year. If you were unfortunate enough, like Orlando, to get Andy Dalton, you had terrible games the first couple of weeks. So Dak is going to be okay. So what I would do is I'd find the weakest spot on your bench and pick up a whatever quarterback you can that's starting. Hopefully there's one available on your bye week for your quarterback and just play him. I'm not giving away any depth if you have depth for another quarterback when you have Dak Prescott. He's good enough. It's good enough for me. So I don't know that I recommend that. So appreciate the question, Nick Smith. Damn, let's move on. The next one comes from Raymond Tedesco. Why does that name sound so familiar?
I believe he is a previous questioner, I guess.
Okay. Question asker. Sounds like a movie character to me. I don't know. Sounds made up. This may be one of Dan's aliases here. Raymond Tedesco. This sounds familiar, but anyway, appreciate the question, Raymond. Wink, wink. So, hey guys, I just listened to your fantasy football preview for the third time due to the sheer disbelief of your belief in Eddie Lacy. I would love a reasonable explanation. I mean, why we got to bring up old stuff? That's the thing. This sounds made up. This sounds like...
I like this question. I was a huge fan of this, and that's why I put it on the show. And Brandon, I don't even have to answer this one because I never had any belief, so he didn't come out and outright ask you, but I'm going to let you take this one.
What, and it wasn't Orlando either, so obviously it's me. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. What's going on? It's just it's the Seattle backfield. Thomas Rawls, who I own, I'll tell you that, and I'll advise you not to own any of the Seattle backfield. But I do have Thomas Rawls, and I'm hanging on to him because I just believe that he's the most comfortable in that system, and Pete Carroll likes him. And once he gets fully healthy, that he's going to get carries for multiple games, enough to put up a pretty good yardage as a number one running back. Chris Carson is the one threatening. A lot of you guys try to tell me CJ Prosise was going to be the man, or our own Orlando Torres out there. Islando, yo, how about this one? He dropped him. He dropped CJ Prosise, who was available in our league, so it ain't him. And Eddie Lacy just ain't getting carries. He's just not, for whatever reason, is not getting carries. So, I mean, yeah, it's not a good pick, but I mean, who on the Seattle backfield is right now, other than Chris Carson, who is, doing okay, but from what I'm hearing, his workload is going to reduce too once Thomas Rawls is healthy. So I don't know. I mean, Eddie Lacy ain't getting carries. How can I tell you how bad he is if he ain't getting carries?
I enjoyed that. Just the recognition of Eddie Lacy not being an RB2 is basically bottom line. So as long as you're admitting that, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
You heard it here, MFST world. Orlando, I'm sure Orlando, who is now tweeting at us trying to get Joe Mixon out of me. I'm sure he is laughing right now off of that Eddie Lacy response too. So. Orlando, send me an offer for Joe Mixon and sit back, and I hope you enjoyed Brandon wiggle his way out of that Eddie Lacy 7th round RB2 pick. All right, we can move on. I'm done.
We can move on. I don't know what you want me to say more. You're looking for an explanation. No, that was my explanation.
I enjoyed it. I was just saying I enjoyed that.
Raymond Tedesco.
I'm telling you my feelings.
I'm sure you are, Raymond Tedesco.
Wow.
Sounds made up. I don't know. Orlando, you tell me. Does that sound made up? That sounds made up. Anyway, so we can put that to bed now. Okay, Dan, you honestly assess the Seattle backfield. Give the listeners something really of in-depth and something they can take away than just this, bashing on Eddie Lacy.
Well, I mean, their offensive line is the worst in football, so you have to temper any expectations of any back to own there. But Chris Carson, I would say, is the back that you want if you want any of those.
And confidence level in him.
5 out of 10. I mean, it's not anything special, so I wouldn't rely on him week to week. But he's a bye week fill-in or a nice matchup this week. I think they play the Colts, so I would put him in there as a flex play, but he's never going to be an RB1 or RB2 consistently every week, I don't think.
All right, so, I mean, I agree. I say stay away from all Seattle Seahawks backfield running backs, although I am hanging on to Thomas Rawls. So go figure. We'll see what happens. He's probably going to pop a big one. I just got to select the day that he does that, which is the hard part. Let's move on and answer more mailbag questions. So we got Orlando watching the podcast live. Appreciate all you guys for watching the podcast live, and then we'll get Orlando's comments in here as well as he continues to watch. But we'll keep the questions coming more mailbag questions from you guys coming up next. Listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. Brandon Reed, Dan Shaw. Orlando's out in Twitter land, and I think you may have a trade working, Dan.
Yeah, it's possible. He also, I do want to, he is putting out a message that I think needs to be addressed. I know we got off the Eddie Lacy topic, but according to Orlando, Brandon, you're getting off easy for the Eddie Lacy pick. It should be brought up each week so you don't forget. Should be a new podcast rule? What do you think?
Yeah, huh? Okay, but I mean, we're wasting everyone's time at that point. I mean, we're talking about a guy who hadn't even got a carry in since August. I think it should end right now. But it was brought up by a listener, I suppose, Raymond Tedesco. So we answered it. But all right, well, let's answer more. Where are we at, Dan? Lost my place here. I'm gonna move on from Raymond and go to Connor Lucht. Stefon Diggs going to keep this stuff up? This is really a question for Orlando. I believe Orlando has Stefon Diggs, and which is a lot of the reason why he is 2-1 right now. Although I think he lost the first week, didn't he? No, he won. So, no, man, Stefon Diggs didn't go off. So as Stefon Diggs goes, there it goes Orlando.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Is he going to keep it up? Yeah, probably. I think he's talented. I think he's a wide receiver 1 in most formats. Obviously, I didn't expect him to tear up with Case Keenum at quarterback. But with Sam Bradford, if he can come back, I think he's going to be targeted a lot. So he's a must play, must start every week in PPR formats. But yeah, I like Stefon Diggs. I think he's a great receiver in fantasy this year. The Vikings really don't have a whole lot of other options. Yeah, they have Adam Thielen, the white kid out of Division III. What's he really going to do consistently? He's good, but he's not going to get you those Diggs type numbers. And you have Kyle Rudolph, who isn't even being targeted anymore in the passing game. They're using him in pass protection a lot more.
I'll bet he was drafted fairly high in a lot of drafts.
Oh yeah. I mean, he had a monster year last year. With Captain Checkdown Sam Bradford, but we haven't seen Bradford since week 1. Week 1, he wasn't, he wasn't Captain Checkdown. He's throwing for almost 400 yards. So I like Diggs this year. I think he will keep it up. Wide receiver 1, strong wide receiver 2.
Real quick on that, Dan, what is Bradford's prognosis right now? I haven't really looked at it lately.
I don't even think what's going on. That's the thing is Minnesota's kind of worried about it. Like all the test
shoulder injury or what was it?
It's a knee, and all the test results are coming back negative. But there's still something going on there that I don't think they fully released all the details. And
I think Case Keenum is filling the role. Like I said, should have been done a little bit more patience in Los Angeles last year. The dude can play. I mean, he's not bad. He's better than your average, third string backup.
Teddy Bridgewater is cleared to practice in a few weeks too. I mean, I think that's a little bit more of a long shot. But if he's healthy, that's another quarterback option that Minnesota has. So I like where Minnesota is at this year, and I don't think my pick of them winning the North is that far off.
No, I'm not with that defense. No, not with that defense. They were going to have a shot. They were always going to have a shot, particularly with Chicago, supposedly or supposed to be having a bad year, in which I guess technically they are. They're 1-2, but I don't know. I think that's going to be a showdown. Detroit's going to have something to say about that. All right, where are we at here? Let's move on. Yeah, we already answered this one. So this was the Neil Gallagher question about AJ Green, and we kind of agreed to keep Kareem Hunt at all possible for show. So this is where we really need Orlando. He's probably tweeting in. Stay on the line here. I know he's probably waiting on this because he saw the question. It's from
he's busy offering me Andy Dalton for Joe Mixon. That just got that email.
Two teammates. Oh wow! I think they're gonna run with this guy a little bit more than they're gonna pass with this guy. Okay. I don't know. What do you think, Dan? Lifetime trade offers right here on My Fantasy Podcast.
Yeah, I think that's going to get rejected. I think I was a lot of it was in joke. Now put Stephon Diggs in that trade offer, and you got yourself a deal. So I think Orlando will have to sweeten the pot a little bit. Maybe not Stephon Diggs, but add a second player in there, and we might be talking something. But ultimately, I think who's talking is this next guy submitting that question, throwing some shade Orlando's way. So. He did give us an answer for it, I think. It wasn't very nice. I think he took offense to Big Mike Udosian.
Sounds right. Big Mike Udosian. Yeah, so the question is, or statement is I enjoy you guys' work on the site, but I have to call out Orlando. Jack Doyle, a man up. More like man who shoots on my cereal. His ridiculous one-handed catch cost me money in daily fantasy. Please reimburse when you have the chance. And again, that's for Orlando. Big Mike Udosian. So basically, Jack Doyle was on his man up piece.
Yeah, Orlando does a great job. He comes up with 2 articles a week: a man up, step aside for the Thursday night games, and then the Sunday, Monday games of who he thinks will be a man and man up, and step aside, keep him on your bench. And he had Jack Doyle in that man up column last week, and he stepped aside. So when that happens, Orlando has to answer to the fans, and that's why it's a little curious that Orlando's absent today. I think he was a little scared of he saw that Big Mike.
That Big Mike is someone named Big Mike is probably a big guy. I don't know.
He's coming for him. So I will give Orlando a little bit of credit. I did like Jack Doyle last week with that matchup, but ultimately Jacoby Brissett ran it in himself instead of throwing the ball. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, but that's a tough one. I have
learned that the Colts just don't use the tight end very effectively. That's why it didn't work out with Coby Fleener, although his Heisman teammate was throwing him the ball. It didn't work out with who's the other guy that moved on? I think to New England.
Dwayne Allen.
Yeah, you got Dwayne Allen. So I found that they just don't throw the ball to the tight end very much.
Yeah, I mean, not since Dallas Clark have you really seen a consistent receiving weapon at the tight end position. So I think Orlando's going to keep Colts off of his man-up column in general because there's not going to be many who actually do.
Yeah, but hey, man, that wasn't really huge enough to get called out. Man, come on now. That was a shot right there, but to be dumping in your cereal, it ain't that serious. It costs you money in daily fantasy.
I mean, Orlando did have stats to back up his Doyle claim. The Browns were getting killed by tight ends, week 1 and 2. So the stats were there. It's just, when Orlando writes it, it just doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, you got to take a wider range of advice. He went out on a limb. He's been right a lot of the times, but
very true.
I mean, come on now, Big Mike, man. If you're throwing all your dough in that basket, then you need to stop, drafting Cocoa Puffs. If that's the case, then maybe you won't get so much dung in your cereal. But all right, so that's Orlando's hate. He's got to get it every week, I guess, Dan. It happens. It happens regardless. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not a show without some Orlando hate, and the thing that I enjoy the most is it really, I think, catches a nerve with Orlando. He takes it.
He takes it well, though. He takes it
does.
well.
Oh yeah, but he bottles it up inside, and then he screams into his pillow as soon as the show goes off air. So serenity now. That's what he just has to keep saying. Serenity now, and Orlando, he's going to hit it big. Look at his man up, step aside column that he published today for the Thursday night game. Some good picks in there. Big Mike.
Hey, Dan, you want to buy a computer? Why not?
I might need one. So yes, I do.
Okay. All right. So Big Mike, there's your answer. Let's go on. We'll move on and talk about into some of our, most perfect fans that tune us in like a soap opera every week, and just run our show on loop in the living room as they're, folding laundry and doing clothes and stuff like that. It's Nick and Judy Pertins. Hey, fellas, I couldn't find your show last week, and honestly, I love hearing the trash talk in your fantasy football league. How's it going? Is Orlando allowed to speak on it? And actually, he's not this week.
No. He's not allowed.
Not this week, although I'm the one that really shouldn't be able to speak on it. But yeah, kind of like a soap opera in our house. Have a great week. And guys, so that's Nick and Judy Pertins just really stopping by to say, hey, like Mr. Rogers' neighbor, Mr. McFeely, with a speedy delivery here to us. How's it going, guys? How's your fantasy football league? Nick and Judy, I'm taking the place of Orlando. What Orlando's traditionally been, Orlando's been doing fine. I'm the one that really hasn't done anything. 51 points this week. No explanation, man. It just happens, Dan. It happens some weeks. I'm hoping I'm getting the worst behind me now.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. You're only 2 games out of first place. So look at it that way. I mean, we're 3 weeks in, but only 2 games out. So you can definitely come back and make this up. So not too much going on my end. Just sitting lone wolf in that first place in the division. So I'm going to probably hang out there all year. And then when playoff time comes, we'll turn it on. But it's been a fun season so far, and I think it's pretty competitive. And I think we have one of the fans of the site, Prestige Worldwide, is undefeated with me. We're 2 undefeated teams left, and
Dakota Day.
Yeah, so shout out to that. And Favre Dollar Footlong, Jim Kiblin, 2-1. Second place. So we got
probably put up the most points in the league.
No, come on now. That would be me.
He blew up the first couple of weeks now. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm just consistent up there.
Do you know that for sure?
Visualize it. Yep.
Okay. All right, so Dan, help me out real quick. Pull up my team real quick. Pull up my team. Check it out. Tell me what's going on. I know when you told me this at draft day that my running game is suffering, and I realize that. But I'm just looking for starters, guys. Any guy that gets anywhere from 10 to 15 carries should put up decent numbers, because that tells me you're a running back 1 for a starting team. The problem here is, I know with one guy, Isaiah Crowell, this is that Cleveland keeps getting down and they're just not able to run the ball. So I don't know. I made 2 moves this week. Picked up Ryan Suckup, who is averaging over 14 points per game right now, if y'all can believe that. I don't know how he snuck through. I know there's a lot of that's luck, but still, I mean, damn, he's averaging 14 points. So I traded in my kicker, Brandon McManus, for Ryan Suckup, and I went ahead and gave up on Julius Thomas, tight end for the Dolphins, Dan, and I went ahead and picked up David Njoku for the Cleveland Browns, who is getting touches, getting looks, and they seem to like him.
Man, when I never thought I would hear the day where Brandon is touting a kicker move, but that's what it's come to.
Do you 14 points per game, Dan? This is through 3 weeks. The numbers are what they are. I don't care what it is.
Kicker is a kicker, Brandon.
He's averaging 14.
Well, that's because he scores more than all of your running backs combined, and
he does.
Gotta get it. I gotta get it.
He absolutely does.
No, I mean, I like Suckup. He's gonna Tennessee always kicks some field goals, and
Dan,
Joe
if he continues to average over 10 points per game, then
you might hit 60.
no, that's a hell of a good kicker. That is a good kicker number. Double digits for a kicker.
Without a doubt.
Seriously, I mean, it counts. It's just like defense. I mean, you got to play him, so you want the most out of it. You average double digits as a kicker. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So I don't know. Look at my team. Tell me what's breaking down right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's your running backs. They're trash. That's basically what it is.
Trash.
Yeah, they're not good. Rob Kelly, I think he's going to end up losing his job. Not even by injury, but Perrine, however you want to say it. And Chris Thompson, I mean, there's different types of backs, yes.
I got you, but this is what I'm hearing. I mean, Perrine hasn't done anything with his, opportunities this year. Rob Kelly's supposed to be the man. They're supposed to crank up his touches now. He is supposed to be the man, and you're going to see less of Chris Thompson because he's a little bit more of a scat back and pass catcher. They're not going to make him the number one guy and lead carrier. So
no, definitely not. But I have to see it. It's kind of like Crowell. Like I was a believer in Crowell in the preseason, but he's not doing anything.
Getting down by too much. They're losing. They're getting down by too much, and there you go.
Yeah, he's averaging, I think, around 3 yards a carry or less. So it's the numbers he's putting with those touches aren't helping either. Terrence West, who would have thought the Ravens would have done that in London?
Yeah,
44-7 against the Jags. I know the Jags have a good defense, but I was not expecting that at all.
And Harbaugh came out and said that he will never play there again.
Well, that's not really up to him, but.
Well, I understand that's the first thing I said. Make that rule, but he said he will never take his team there again. It's just the time difference, the travel. Maybe he was making excuses, but I kind of agree with him. It's a little ridiculous. And we're going to have a great Super Bowl rematch game in Mexico City. I am kind of looking forward to that.
Which one is that?
New England and Atlanta in Mexico City.
I didn't know that was in Mexico City. So
it's in Mexico City.
Yeah, you're dropping knowledge on me that I didn't even know.
I am looking forward to that. If it's like a soccer, environment and feel, the vuvuzelas blowing, that's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun.
That should be a good one.
But anyway, my running backs suck is what you're telling me.
Yes.
I mean, what am I going to do? Greg Olsen got hurt. He was like my 5th or 6th round guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you might need to swing a move for a legit RB1 because even if Rob Kelly is the man, I still see him as an RB2. So I don't know. It's not going to be a fun season for you.
I thought about that though, Dan. But what if Isaiah Crowell and Terrence West, who are still technically the number one guys, start turning it up?
That's what you have to hope for.
But that's the thing, you got to look ahead. It's going so bad now, eventually. And even Thomas Rawls, I don't know what he's going to do, So I don't know. I'm not ready to swing that move yet, but I'm willing to look at all viable offers and crazy offers, whatever. But how do you like me trading Julius Thomas for David Njoku?
I think it's pretty fair. I mean, I think Julius Thomas is going to he's going to put up better numbers than what he has so far, but Njoku is also kind of growing in that offense too and seems to have a rapport with Deshaun Kaiser. So it's hard to mistake, I think 2 touchdowns in back-to-back weeks, a touchdown each week. I still have hope for Julius Thomas. I know you were high on him as a major sleeper leading into the year, but last week the Dolphins passing game was
the Dolphins. Now, part of the reason is that they, had the unfortunate bye week in week number 1. So they only played 2 games before I made that decision. But the offense has just not looked good in 2 games. And I don't know that it's going to get better. It's not promising anyway. He may eventually have a bust out 15 or 16 point game, but probably 1 out of maybe 8 games, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say it's probably going to be on the lesser side than more often. So pretty fair move. I don't hate it. I don't think it's going to.
You were high on Njoku in the draft, though. I mean, just as a player.
Yeah. I think he's going to he can be a solid NFL player and have a lengthy career. You're just counting on not only the Cleveland Browns, but a rookie quarterback. against the AFC North, where they have a lot of tough defenses that they play twice a year. Steelers, Cincinnati, who is this week, so that'll be a good matchup. But then the Ravens, so it's good. It's okay. It's flatlined.
Flatlining
move.
Flatlining is not necessarily good.
It didn't. I don't think you dropped any lower, so that's good.
Okay, appreciate that. So I'm looking at Romo the Dog's roster now. He's the guy. He's the guy to beat. He's leading it 3-0, just like pretty much every sport starts out like that, right, Dan? And I'm looking at your avatar pick right now. Nice one, old Shocky. All right, so let's hear and look of Dan Schauk's Romo the Dog team. He's starting Marcus Mariota, Todd Gurley, Kareem Hunt, Michael Thomas. And what's Michael Thomas? 11. Okay, all right. Yeah, not bad. He's kind of going under the radar to me, honestly, but nice player. Devontae Adams is the other wide receiver. Evan Ingram, tight end. Joe Mixon, Vikings D, and Young. You still got the Young Ho in there, huh?
I'm keeping him out until he gets cut, because it's that's bound to happen at some point this year. Young Huku will not be a Charger. He's a pretty bad kicker, but I stay with my guys, so I'm going to stay with him until he loses his job.
All right.
Too good of a name not to.
Yeah. Deshaun Jackson is on his bench along with Hunter Henry, Jamal Williams, Cole Beasley, Marlon Mack, Mike Williams, who is rapidly surging and getting closer to playing. So you might have got a good steal right there. And then Cameron Brate, who I like a lot, wraps out his tight ends. So Mike Williams, beating your expectations, I'm sure.
Yeah, I kind of just took a flyer on him. I think he was my last or second last round pick. Just like the upside on it. And in that Chargers passing attack, outside of Keenan Allen, they really don't have a reliable target. Tyrell Williams has been pretty terrible this year. So if he can come back, mid-season and give me something, I think that's great. But overall, I mean, I like my team. I like the depth of it. I think a lot of the players on my bench, like a Jamal Williams and Marlon Mack, are only going to grow into their roles. And with a guy like Ty Montgomery, who is putting up a phenomenal season, I think his injury risk is fairly high. So that's what I'm banking on.
Here's what I got an eye on. While yes, you do have a really good, solid team, solid bench, Dan, it must be excruciating having to pick each week between whether to start a Deshaun Jackson or a Cole Beasley at your flex spot when currently you have Joe Mixon filling that role. I mean, that's hard decisions too. The better you are, you got hard decisions to make.
Yeah, and Deshaun Jackson has manned that spot the last 2 weeks. He rewarded me last week with 16 points, but I just like where Joe Mixon is going in that offense. I think he's going to become more of a focal point each week, and their new OC, Bill Lazor, is just going to continue to get him involved, and we saw that last week in Green Bay.
So Evan Ingram doing you pretty good. The rookie doing you pretty good. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to play him as much as I am. I didn't play him last week, and Hunter Henry got me a big 0, like Hunter Henry got me in week 1 too. So I know Ingram will at least catch a pass. That's all I really need. Just give me 0.5.
You kind of reached to go ahead and grab him too. You liked him so much because you took him in the 11th round. That's not 13, 14, 15. That's 11th. So you went up and grabbed him, the rookie.
Yeah, well, I figured with OBJ, and all the weapons that they have on the outside, Evan Ingram isn't going to be game planned against by NFL defenses, at least this year. So, a nice red zone target, and he's got the speed of a wide receiver. So he basically is the wide receiver is actually outperforming consistently all of them. But Sterling Shepard and OBJ had good weeks last week, but Brandon Marshall has been missing, and I think Evan Ingram is kind of taking that role.
Oh, yeah, Brandon Marshall's been missing, all right, that's for sure. And a guy I have on my bench, Sterling Shepard, has been reaping a lot of the awards, and that's a decision I have to make. Which weeks do I play Sterling Shepard as a flex spot? Because I mean, he's been the man. Eli really has built a chemistry with him because he's getting a lot of dump downs and just getting a lot of looks and opportunities.
Yeah, I owned Shepard in every league last year. I was very high on him. He was my number one wide receiver in the entire draft of the previous year. So I was really high on him, and I ran into the same spot that you're going to run into is when to play him this week, because he'll have those monster games like he had last week, that 75-yard touchdown, and then he might go missing for 1 week, but you just don't know which week it is. So you really got to stay on your game and be the champ that you are, New Breed. Be the champ that you are.
Why are you talking to me?
Advice. Yeah, that's my advice.
I'm okay. Everything is fine.
See the stress level. It's
RELAX, folks. Okay.
Orlando's out on Twitter saying bottom place Brandon.
Really? Okay. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. I feel okay because I have a championship, a ring. You want to see it? Flex it for you. But I have a ring, so I may have a down year, but I'm not going to finish bottom. I promise you that. I mean, I started the same way last year. I'll bounce back. These are mid-season moves. Y'all just don't know that Isaiah Crowell and Terrence West aren't going to really start playing until week 12. Y'all just don't know that. I know that. Y'all don't know that. But there you have it. So let's break down Orlando's team real quick. Why don't we? Dan, pull up Orlando's team. So he is with Dak Prescott and Andy Dalton. We've talked about both of those guys, and he played Dak Prescott, I believe, or he probably should have if he didn't. 22 points.
Yep.
So, Dak Prescott or Andy Dalton, he's got both those guys, so he's doing okay. I'd say just kind of hang on to those guys playing both of the matchup. Ty Montgomery, he's got Chris Carson. He saw that early enough to jump on that bandwagon, which is part of the reason he let go of CJ Prosise, which I understand that. And Brandon Cooks, Stephon Diggs, that's his playmaker. Zach Miller's tight end. Jordan Howard might getting ready to be dropped. We'll see. But I think that was even in Orlando's piece, wasn't it, Dan, today?
He did mention some hatred towards him. I mean, he had a good week last week, but I don't know. I don't think Orlando. He didn't sound very confident in his ability moving forward. I think he likes Cohen, and if Cohen was available, he would go after him over Howard. But
and Howard is his flex play, so that's basically saying that Howard's not going to be better than everyone on his bench. I can guarantee you that. So, but anyways, he got Chiefs defense and Will Lutz kicker, doing good at 11 points per game. So let's look at his bench, Dan. These are the guys that he's overlooking to play for Jordan Howard at his flex spot. Michael Crabtree, we don't know yet. Doug Martin suspended for one more game because of the bye. So Tyler Eifert is doubtful. Terrell Williams, Los Angeles Chargers, and Devin Funches. So Kelvin Benjamin done? Is he? He's done?
He's out. He's probably going to miss this week. He's not out for the year or anything. I think he escaped major injury, but he might miss 3 to 4 weeks at the most, I think, is what I read. I like Funches this week. I like Funches as long as Benjamin is out to be about a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. So I think you're going to see Funches outscore Jordan Howard, and it's going to cost Orlando a win.
We'll see. Maybe he listens to us. I was pretty high on Funches, to be honest with you. Big guy, big target for Cam, and it's not always the number one guys that are going to get the production. And I thought Cam and the Carolina Panthers are going to have a bounce back year. So while I'm only playing in 2 fantasy leagues, so while I was high on Funches and was going to draft him, didn't get the opportunity in either league, so I don't have him. But I was pretty high on him going into the season. Now it looks pretty good for at least a couple weeks for Funches. So I don't know. He's got a decision to make there, but Jordan Howard, Dan.
I liked him a lot coming into the preseason, but I think
he was first 2 round draft picks. I mean, Orlando took him 13th overall.
Yeah, I mean, I had him in my top 5 running backs, and I mean, I was sold on him after owning him last year, seeing what he can do. But I didn't see Tariq Cohen having this much of a role in the offense. I mean, Jordan Howard is coming out on any down situation of 5 yards or more and 3rd down. So he is off the field, which severely hurts his value. He's going to play on 1st down, sometimes 2nd down. You won't see him on 3rd down. So Cohen has really eaten into his value, and I like Cohen as the better play every week, kind of moving forward for the rest of the year, especially in PPR formats.
And so what do you think about Orlando's team overall, Dan? Doing better than me, 2-1, 1 game behind you. How do you feel about his roster? Fear it? Like some things? Or are you just going to trash talk him?
Yeah, no, I mean, the big W I have over him, there's no reason to fear. He's got a solid team. It's definitely better than that last place Lando that he put up last year. That really did have a virus. And
Stephon Diggs, man.
Yeah, he definitely has some solid players. His running backs do scare me a little bit. All you need is Ty Montgomery to go down. He's been phenomenal to start the year. I don't see that maintaining itself the whole year, but if he were to go down at any time, I think you're going to see Orlando's team hurting a little bit.
Or Stephon Diggs, which Brandon Cook has been doing good as well.
He's got some depth at receiver with Crabtree and Funches, so I like his receiving core. It's injuries always worry me, so you never know when that hit's going to happen.
And going into the season, you were not high on Brandon Cooks. Last week, monster game, 180 or 130. What was it right here? Yeah, 131 yards, 2 TDs.
He was a daily fantasy play for me, so that worked out in my favor.
There you go. Nice pickup, Dan. Nice pickup.
You had to like that matchup last week. I think he's going to continue to build more of a rapport, but I mean, you've seen Chris Hogan go off. Gronk has looked good when he's on the field. So Tom Brady he's going to play till he's 45, and he's going to put up numbers like he is right now.
And then he is really made me look stupid the last couple of weeks because I really called him out after week 1 because I just thought that was kind of more what it was going to be. But he's leading all quarterbacks in yardage right now, the only one over 1,000 yards so far in this season.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch, and it's kind of hard to believe because honestly, he is still the greatest quarterback. He's the greatest quarterback ever. And honestly, if I was in a picky franchise to start a franchise with right now for 1 year, give me a year, or if you want to give me 3 years, give me 3 years. It's going to be Tom Brady. He's the best, and he's proving that right now.
I just think you have a little bit more confidence about how long he's going to play. I still stick by my prediction that he will not play a full season this year. Something will happen. We'll see. So, Dan, you're 3-0. The only other guy undefeated is Prestige Worldwide. Okay? Dude's name is Dakota Day, and his team looks a little something like this. He got Aaron Rodgers, Mike Gillislee, James White. So he's built a team kind of like me. I know he's built a team kind of like me, right? Like,
they're on the same team.
Who are your running backs?
I've never seen that before in my life.
Yeah,
2 running backs on the same team in your starting lineup.
That's currently right now. I don't know whether that was last week, and I don't know whether that will be this week.
Well, he's planning to roll it out this week.
That's what's happening against Carolina as of right now. But anyway, then T.Y. Hilton, Jeremy Maclin, who we spoke of earlier, is his wide receiver 2. Travis Kelce is his tight end. He's got Jordy Nelson in that flex spot, Bengals defense, and Kai Forbath is his kicker. On the bench, he's got the injured Corey Coleman, Samaje Perine, John Ross, Jason Witten, Alex Smith as a backup quarterback. Chris Ivory. Is Chris Ivory still in the league? What happened to him? He's averaging 5 points per game, so he's not doing well. I mean, not bad. Anyway, Rashard Higgins. So think just from an open perspective here, Dan, and analyze Dakota Day's team, not as the competition, but just as a fantasy football team right now.
He's the luckiest undefeated team I've ever seen. Wow. I mean, I've never looked at his roster before. Obviously, draft night we did. But yeah, I'm surprised he's undefeated.
I'm surprised Chris Ivory is averaging 5 points per game, and I didn't even notice he's getting 5. He's just getting 5, man. That's consistent carries, though. He's getting consistent carries. He's getting between 6 and 9 carries, and some catches. But
sounds like your trade clock is working. You're going to start to target Chris Ivory.
No, that was last year's stuff. I'm on some new stuff now. It may not work out. It may be some horrible stuff, but I'm on some new stuff. I ain't buying Chris Ivory. I mean, I think Leonard Fournette's the real deal. He'll have his ups and downs. He's the real deal. But I mean, like you got Jordy Nelson in the flex spot.
Well, it's because he has Jeremy Maclin in his wide receiver too. Well, he should bump him off, put Jordy Nelson in wide receiver, and play Jay Witt as your flex, the second tight end. Because, that's just what I would do personally. I'm not a huge Maclin believer, but that scares me if you're starting 2 running backs on the same team weekly. It might not have been that way previously, but besides, like, he doesn't have anybody on his back. Like P. Ryan and Ivory are his only 2 other backs. So
that's true.
I don't expect him to be undefeated too much longer.
Also, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to put up big numbers. He's averaging 22 right now. His next best guy is T.Y. Hilton, 12.7. 27 of that was last week, though, so those numbers are slightly skewed. Jacoby Brissett, man. How about Jacoby Brissett?
He's surprised me, but he's kept that Indianapolis Colts team afloat until Andrew Luck comes back, and was the only person to pick the Colts last week. That was a little surprising in our pick'em piece. How many believers of the Browns that we had?
Oh, well, I'm done on the Colts, and I mean that was just a win. It was a win over the Browns, I guess. But I'm just not a believer in that team. The defense ain't very good. The offensive line ain't good. I think they're going to finish last in the AFC South. Seriously. But anyway, that's your leading competition right now, Dan. The 3-0 Dakota Day Prestige Worldwide. So all I want to know, are you going to invest or not?
Invest in what?
Prestige Worldwide.
No, I want my money back with a full refund. And he's 5th in scoring. Yeah, he scored the fifth or sixth most points, and he's undefeated. So that says a lot.
Dakota Day, he's 3-0 with a lot of on a boat with Young Ho Kims. Yeah. There you go. I still see that 51.5 on the scoreboard. Just shameful, Dan. I'm the defending champ, and that's the best I can come up with is 51.5 points.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. Who do you play this week? Who's gonna help you turn it around? Are you? Show me your TDs, Dennis Durso.
Oh wow,
who's projected to win?
Who didn't? Probably so. Didn't he have the number 1 pick in the draft?
He did. Yes.
Yep. So show me your TDs. Hopefully he won't this week. We'll see. So that's kind of our league. That's probably the longest answer to a question ever, Nick and Judy Burns. Are we still considering that a question, Dan?
Yeah, we'll consider it a question. And Nick and Judy, we always thank you. They're our loyal followers who basically submit a question every week or just about every week. And every week they do, they know they're gonna get put up on the site because of all the love that they show us. And now they also have a new nickname for Brandon, Bottom Place Brandon. We still have Last Place Lando. There's really nothing for me. But I think they enjoy the way we interact with our bottom feeders, the way I interact with the bottom feeders in our league.
Well, it's a very interesting, unique relationship with Nick and Judy in My Fantasy podcast because Orlando is from San Antonio, huge Spurs fan. I am from Memphis, huge Grizzlies fan. And this couple, Nick and Judy Pertins, Judy, I believe, is from San Antonio. Anyway, lived in San Antonio, huge San Antonio Spurs fan. And Nick is from West Memphis, huge Memphis Grizzlies fan. So very unique perspective, and it crosses across all boards all season long, all year long. So far on the podcast, Nick and Judy's been chiming in regardless of the sport of the sports season.
Yeah, it was kind of the first time they submitted the question to us, it was kind of like a match made in heaven. I don't know how they exactly found us, but we're glad they did, and I think they have a connection to our show that will go on as long as we're on air, and we're glad to have them as listeners and to interact with us every week.
Definitely appreciated of it. So appreciate you guys. We'll go on and talk about the site myfantasysportstalk.com coming up next. This is My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. Brandon Reed, Dan Schalk, Orlando via Twitter chiming in every once in a while. He's probably had his fill, though. So a lot of fantasy football talk. We talked about everything from the political aspect of the national anthem stuff and just the NFL in general to kick you off. We talked about last week's questions. Some of them were still good this week. So we answered those, answered this week's questions from you guys, or a small fraction of them. Appreciate it. We've done so much already, Dan. We had technical difficulties, and we're back at you. So, I mean, what a show.
Yeah, kind of been like the site this week, crazy busy. The podcast today, we got a little hairy. It got a little hairy on the site with all the content that we've been dropping. For those that don't know, inside all the writers that we have at My Fantasy Sports Talk, we put out a little challenge to them to see how many articles that they can pump out. And I think the entertainment section, like the last 4 days alone, has put almost 50 articles out there. So, yeah. I mean, it's been insane that, they've really taken to the challenge. Orlando has jumped on it, and he's writing his pieces like crazy. So it's been a great end to September. And I expect it to only continue in October. But, now with prime time coming back, kids back to school, all the shows, television shows coming back, I didn't realize how jam-packed the primetime schedule is. I'm not a huge television guy, but I find myself every day saying, yeah, I want to watch that. I want to watch that. And I don't even need to because I'm getting the recaps on the site. So every morning I'm waking up, editing articles, and finding out about the new hit shows on NBC, ABC, CBS, all of them. And there's a lot of them out there.
That's how you came across Food Network Star.
Yep. And Jason Smith, Food Network Star, his show is actually premiering tonight. Best Baker in America. I know Brandon's going to be glued to it. He's a big cherry pie eater, and I know you really like to make quiches and different things like that. So Brandon will be glued to that. I'll be watching something else, but enjoy.
I do love a good quiche. I love a good casserole as long as I have Tupperware so that it will keep. And without the Tupperware, it's just not the same. She is my cherry pie.
Okay. Yes. Agreed.
Warrant. Look it up, folks. For all you young bucks. Dan may not even know what I'm talking about. The song.
No idea.
The song. You never heard of that song? She's my cherry pie.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Warrant. Look it up. iTunes needs to be giving us money because off this podcast alone, I guarantee you 6 or 7 people just went to iTunes and downloaded She's My Cherry Pie by Warren. So we need residuals off that. Great song. But yeah, the site, Dan, just scrolling through here. You got a Pitch Perfect season 3, I guess, or 3.
Pitch Perfect 3 is the third movie.
Pitch Perfect. Sorry. What's going on here? That is actually the title of Pitch Perfect 3, not just my state of mind. Podcast Spotlight, Trick or Treat Radio. No idea what that is. Got to be interesting, though. Talk Without Rhythm, the only podcast. We basically got a lot of podcast reviews right now, which we love them being in the podcast business. You never know what interesting you may come across, just like Nick and Judy Pertins somehow stumbled across My Fantasy Podcast.
Yeah, Patrick Rahal is writing those pieces, and he's getting some in-depth perspectives on a couple podcasts, popular podcasts that he listens to, that he wants to kind of bring the light out to the world, similar to like My Fantasy Sports Talk. So those are 2 great pieces, great reads. And in the future, we hope to maybe be working with those podcasts and in some capacity.
So book reviews, the Raven cycle. But there is also, I guess this contest has brought a lot of obscure things out of the woodwork, Dan, because there's a lot of stuff I've never seen here. But old Friday Night Light star Taylor Kisich is to star as the new David Koresh in a new Waco series. Were you familiar with the Waco compound story from back in the day, Dan?
I watched an old documentary on it a while ago. I mean,
You're probably real young when that was happening.
Oh yeah, when it was going down, I was out playing with sticks in the backyard. But I've seen some documentaries since then. It definitely seems to be interesting. I'm going to try and catch that because I kind of like those true crime going back and watching. I don't know if you caught there was a quick series on the Unabomber that I've been watching, and that was called Manhunt, and that was a really good series. So I expect this one to be similar to that.
Yeah, that was an interesting story when it happened. It spanned over days, if not weeks, as this standoff at this compound in Waco, Texas, was going on over this religious fanatic, just one of those guys, and it ended up with the place burning down and people perishing in that. And it happened all on live TV. And that was honestly one of the very first things to really caption the audience and nation to see go down on live TV almost 24/7. Because that was kind of around the invention of the 24/7 news network. So it was interesting. It was very interesting. I remember it as a young kid as well. But so that you got Matthew Aguirre pumping out some wrestling, and not only wrestling, but his quick jabs piece, the UFC versus the WWE. I guess along with the podcast as well, People's Podcast.
Did you know they're going to be merging in some capacity, WWE and UFC?
I have not heard that. No,
I have not, but click that article and find out more because that's what they talk about. So I didn't know that was going down, but I guess it's possible.
There you go. Well, promotion is promotion. Why not? Why not? They both have the edge on boxing right now at this point. So why not? But all that, so much more on the website right now, Dan. There's a lot of art, just a lot of stuff out there. If you are into fantasy football, following fantasy football right now, just a ton of stuff all week long. We do our Pick'ems piece every week. That's just fun to keep up with. And then all the entertainment stuff as of late, they kind of took a hiatus there for a week or so, it seems. So they bounced back hard, and a lot of entertainment pieces, movie reviews, book reviews, everything like that. So a lot of stuff right now at myfantasysportstalk.com.
For sure. And it's only going to continue to grow as NFL season comes. You mentioned earlier in the podcast, NBA season is right around the corner. I know Brandon's going to have to study up on his fantasy basketball to dethrone me. And it's something he's coming for. I'm
going to call it right now. We're going to go ahead and do the fantasy draft for NBA live on the podcast as well. So set that up properly, Dan.
I shall, and it'll just be me on a throne. I think I'm going to buy a throne just for the show, and I'm going to sit on it the whole time, and I'll have my toes make my picks. I'm going to pick with my toes, and it'll still be a championship squad.
There was a piece released last year. I know you remember it, Dan. It was called "Should the NBA Be Resting Players?" And that article hits home because it's what eventually cost me the championship against you. So enjoy.
I will. I have, and I will continue to do so.
So we start a new season coming up real soon.
Still got a month left of enjoying.
Enjoy. So we'll set that up for you and let you know about the date of that as well. That'll be fun on the podcast. So, but as for next week, this is what we're going to do. Just keep submitting fantasy football questions. Let us know what your dilemmas are, what your trade proposals are, what you're thinking about doing. We'll talk to you about our league and help you if we can. Maybe you can help me, like what I ask you to do in baseball season all year long. So tell me who's hot out there, who I might need to grab if my waiver wire number happens to be high enough. So appreciate it, guys. My Fantasy Podcast. Hey, we're airing on WBLZsports.com every single Friday from 3 to 5 Eastern Time, and also a brand new landing page on WBLZsports.com, which they are remodeling their site, and My Fantasy Podcast is going to be looking even prettier, Dan.
Yeah, we are up there already on their new website, new redesigned, and it looks nice. It's a fresh looking place to not only click on sports news, but you can listen to the radio station live right on the website itself. So check it out, WBLZsports.com. It's something that we've been with for a while now. We've been on WBLZ for a few months, and in our short time, with the radio station, they've kind of taken off. You kind of see it boom up in popularity, and I think that's only continued to grow. So check out the website and all the great podcasts that are on there, because it's not just us. I mean, we do probably take them to that higher level. But they're on that higher level, and they're staying there because of all the other great podcasts that are on the network.
That's right. We take you to where you want to go. It's My Fantasy Podcast, myfantasysportstalk.com. That's it. Nothing more to be said. Last word from Dan Schalk there. But check us out not only on WBLZsports.com, on iTunes, on SoundCloud, on the website, myfantasysportstalk.com. And check out for our Facebook Live videos. Subscribe to our page, myfantasysportstalk.com on Facebook, because Facebook Live is growing, and you never know where we're going to be or who is going to be there on myfantasysportstalk.com. That's it for this week's edition of My Fantasy Podcast. Thanks for joining us. See you next week. Keep submitting the questions. For Dan Schalk, I am Brandon Reed. Till next week, see you later. Peace.